Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chaka Zinyemba, and I'm Marc Parsons. And while we just wait for this to come up, it's been a wonderful event so far. The dinner's been great, and I feel the keynote speaker was really fabulous. It's going to be a tough challenge to live up to that one. Just taking a while. There we go. There's our names. Okay, so tonight we'll be presenting the findings from our research that we did in the summer. And our presentation tonight is entitled Air Quality at Edmonton's Outdoor Festivals. We will explain the Pm2.5 later on in the presentation. So just an outline of our presentation this evening. We'll speak about who we are and what health geography is, because this is what this falls under. And we'll talk about the aim of our research, our methodology, our data collection, and our results. Then move on to our conclusions and our recommendations.
All right, so like I said, my name is Marc Parsons. I'm a third-year science student in the Faculty of Sciences. I'm a statistics student, actually. I've been born and raised in Edmonton. I love Edmonton. The study's about Edmonton. Yay, Edmonton. I'm very interested in math and stats, actually, and also in geography issues such as urban studies, urban planning, transportation planning, a lot of things like that. How I got involved in this was our supervisor, Dr. Collins, sent out a call for students through CAPS. I applied, I got accepted, and it was that easy. Yeah.
And as I said, my name is Chaka Zinyemba. I'm a fourth-year student. I'm a human geography major, and I'm an international student from Zimbabwe, so I'm very glad to be here right now. And how I got involved in this research, well, I took EAS 395, that's Health, Space and Place, that's taught by Dr. Damien Collins. I guess I must have done well because he approached me afterwards and said, hey, would you be interested in this project? I want undergrad students to lead it, and there'll be two of you, so would you like to do it? And it was that easy. Now I'm here. So just to kind of contextualize our research this evening and where it falls in academia, this is a sub-discipline of human geography called health geography. And health geography focuses on the socio-ecological model of health as opposed to the biomedical model of health. So what happens with the health geography is we realize that as individuals, we are part of our environments, and so beginning from our families all the way up to the state. So our environments can influence our health. And as such, we ask questions like, how does our urban makeup contribute to rates of obesity in our society? Or we ask, how do our public policies contribute to where people can smoke and thus rates of cancer within any given society?
All right, great. So getting to our research question was, what are the contributions of environmental tobacco smoke and smoke from temporary cooking establishments to ambient air pollution during outdoor festivals in Edmonton? All right, so just a bit of a grounder in Edmonton. You're all in Edmonton right now. Hope you know that. Edmonton is the self-proclaimed festival city of Canada. Dozens of festivals in Edmonton all throughout the year, mostly in the summer due to weather, as you can tell right now if you look outside. But yeah, a lot of festivals in Edmonton, a lot of really great festivals. The Folk Festival, pictured here, Heritage Festival, the Fringe Festival, a lot of really high quality festivals. And a lot of them are actually targeted towards families, and they're billed as very family friendly. As per smoking bylaws in Edmonton, Edmonton really doesn't have too many smoking bylaws compared to other cities in Canada. You can't smoke on public vehicles, you can't smoke in public buildings, you can't smoke within 5 meters of a doorway, certain buildings, things like that. There aren't really any smoking bylaws that encompass festivals or outdoor public spaces, large outdoor public spaces in any way. And as for outdoor cooking bylaws, there are essentially none. You can go take any fuel you want and cook anything you want in your backyard, as long as there's no fire ban or as long as there's not a fire hazard at all. You can do anything you want as really for outdoor cooking.
So we must say that this is actually a first. This is the first study, at least to the best of our knowledge, that's been conducted in Canada. So yeah, thumbs up for us. And, but it does follow precedent from two similar studies that have been conducted in New Zealand, in Wellington in particular. And so we had to adapt some of these studies and contextualize them within Edmonton. So how do we go about doing that and developing our methodology? How do we choose our festivals? Our festivals had to be free of admission and publicly accessible. That way we get a greater diversity of different socioeconomic backgrounds that come to the festival to increase the scope of our study. Our festivals, we decided, had to be marketed as family-friendly because we also wanted to find out what the exposure was for children. Many children like to come to these festivals. So with that in mind, we chose 3 festivals to go to. The Edmonton International Street Performance Festival and the Taste of Edmonton Festival. Both are publicly accessible, free of admission, and they're both held at Churchill Square. The 3rd festival we chose was the Heritage Festival, which is very popular and probably one of the bigger festivals within the city. Again, free of admission, and that one is held at Horlick Park.
All right, so a big part of our study was going out into the real world, going to these festivals, coming back with some quantitative data, some hard data on air quality. And I guess you're wondering, how did they do that? Well, I'll explain it right now. Great. So a bit of a grounding in air quality studies. In the air around you right now, there's particulate matter floating around, naked, or invisible to the naked eye, rather. And it's just, so a subset of particulate matter is Pm2.5. It's all particles in the air that are less than 2.5 micrometers in diameter, and they're actually very easily inhaled into your lungs. So they're sort of a health issue. You don't really want to breathe in too much PM2.5. It'll stay there in your lungs for a while, not super great. The components of PM2.5 are environmental tobacco smoke, so it's just smoke exhaled by a smoker who's smoking a cigarette, cooking smoke, volcanic ash, dust from a road, lots of things. All right, so this is just an example of a air quality guidelines. This is actually set out from the Ministry of the Environment for Ontario. As you can see, it goes from very good to very poor. Very good being all the levels of PM2.5 that are underneath 11 micrograms per cubic meter. So actually, before, I don't know if you noticed that we were around the stage kind of lurking around before. We were actually testing the air quality in this room, and I'd just like to tell you all that it's very good. So everyone can feel super safe being in this room, that the air quality is really great and you will not get any health effects from PM2.5 in this room. All right, so this is actually what we use to measure air quality. This is the SidePack aerosol monitor, manufactured by TSI. It's a cool little instrument. I'll just pick it up. Great, it's really small. It's kind of loud actually. That's why we don't have it running right now, because you wouldn't be able to hear us. It's kind of high pitched and annoying. But yeah, actually on the right side right here is the impactor. And this sucks in air, blows out air at a constant rate. And it uses spectrometry to calculate the mass of particles of a specific size inside of the impactor at any time. And so you'll kind of run it, and it'll be logging data as long as you're running it. And you can set it at a specific log interval. And we set it at a 30-second log interval. So every 30 seconds, it would give us a reading. And that would be the air quality concerning PM2.5 at that specific moment in time.
So with that in mind, excuse me, with that in mind, what research methods did we then use? We used both quantitative and qualitative research methods. So quantitative was mainly because of the instrument that we're using here. And what this did, as Marcus already explained, was to give us readings as to what the concentration of PM2.5 was in the atmosphere at any given time. We also counted how many people we passed who were smoking, and we took into account, we estimated how close they were to the particulate matter measurements, and oh, that's a fail. I'm learning from that. So what we did is, because PM2.5 has a certain distance decay, what happens is, after about 2 meters, it's very hard to detect. So we also had to estimate how close we were to the cooking smoke or to people who were smoking. We used qualitative measures to contribute to inform us about the measurements that we got from the quantitative data. So we took some photos and we did some observations. What we also did is we had a fixed route for each festival, and thank you very much to Google for providing us with the map. And we had a fixed route for each festival. We took into account where the food areas were, so you can see those yellow triangles to the extreme right. We also took into account where the traffic would be, so we would know to account for traffic within our readings. We took into account where there would be a high density of people as well, so we know that, okay, we want to take readings in this area as well. So we tried to use a fixed route to standardize our data collection for each different festival. However, fail doesn't always work. We had some challenges, and our side pack arrived late, so this is the side pack. It arrived late, so we had some challenges. We had to learn how to use it pretty quickly. And calibrating it also proved to be a bit of a challenge. The weather in Edmonton during the summer sucked because it rained all the time. So we had to call off some days, we had to change some days, and sometimes it was sunny, then suddenly raining. We had to really work with the weather. The mosquitoes, believe it or not. The mosquitoes actually suck. I actually believe mosquitoes can get sucked into this thing sometimes. But I remember Marc went out one day and he was going to do a trial run. I was staying in the lab. And so he went out to this trial run and he came back after like, I don't know, 5 minutes, went to Holland Park, he took a walk and he was like, dude, I got defeated by those mosquitoes.
I'm still recovering from that actually.
So we had to, figure out how we're going to handle the mosquitoes as well. And we also realized walking around all day, it can actually be quite tiring. You don't think about this, but after you spend like 9 hours of data collection walking around, you get quite fatigued, you have to count for hydration, etc. So that was quite a bit of a learning curve for us.
All right, so you have to be really sneaky when you're doing research like this. You have to make sure that people don't really kind of know what you're doing, I guess. It kind of sounds really terrible, but you don't want them to, want to influence their behavior. That could affect your results in the end. People might see you monitoring air pollution, air quality, and they might stop smoking because they're like, I'm ashamed that I'm smoking and I'm causing bad air quality in this area or something like that. So you really don't want that to happen. And one way that we overcame that was through this exciting diagram right here, this handsome fellow right here, who actually took the side pack, put it into a messenger bag, and used some plastic tubing, attached it to the impactor, and put it outside of the bag. This way, you can kind of be incognito and just walk around the festival, just a random person with a messenger bag, right? That's normal, right? I think that's normal. So this pretty much was our job for the summer, walking around festivals like this. And actually, yes, I did the data analysis side of this study. So I'll just really quickly, I don't want to bore anybody, this is the most boring part of the whole presentation. So I used Excel to actually plot the data, and I'll show you some plots in a second. I used a Mann-Whitney U-test to compare sample medians. It's actually a really good test for very messy data, and our data turned out being pretty messy, not really any sort of distribution at all, nothing really nice about it. We also used ethnographic observations to kind of inform our data and really understand what we were looking at.
So, what were the results? I'm sure that's the most interesting part right now. But before we go on to that, just a slight confession. Yeah, we actually almost failed in our research. We went out the first day and we realized that, you know what, there's a lot more smoke than we thought. We were only coming out to measure smoke from secondhand, from environmental tobacco smoke. And we went to this popcorn stand, and this thing was just fuming and emitting, and our readings went sky high. So we were like, something's funny. Anyway, we came back and we were like, what are we going to do about this? So we decided, the best thing to do is, let's just broaden our study. And it gave us more work. We had to do more research. We had to do more readings and find out more about cooking smoke. But that's what research is. We had to actually come back to the lab, and we decided, we'll open up a study. So that's why our research includes smoke from cooking establishments as well. Okay, that worked.
Great. So this is just an example of one of the graphs that we put together. This is PM2.5 in micrograms per cubic meter over time. And this is between noon and 2 p.m. At the Heritage Festival on a Sunday, I believe. So the black line represents PM2.5. The spikes represent high levels of PM2.5. As you can see, a bunch of these spikes actually get above 50 micrograms per cubic meter. And that starts to get into the poor level of air quality. So there are a couple of them. There are about 6 spikes that all reach above that. These green triangles at the bottom represent when Chaka and I were near the food area, so some sort of thing that was cooking food, like a barbecue, a deep fryer, something like that. As you can see, these green triangles are really great indicators of a spike in PM2.5. The red diamonds along the top, or along the middle, represent smokers. So this first bar is just 1 smoker nearby, and this second bar is 2 smokers. And you can see that that has less of an effect on the PM2.5. All right, so these are just, if you're wondering which festivals are the safest to go to, the Street Performance Festival actually came in on top, as in the lowest level of PM2.5, with just under 6 micrograms per cubic meter, whereas the Heritage Festival actually ended up having the worst air quality as per PM2.5. So we took all the data from all of our festivals, we pooled it together, and we sort of made some categories. Categories of when we were near the food area, when we were near a smoker, and when we were near heavy traffic, as in like buses, things like that. As you can see on the left here, the food area has the highest mean PM2.5 levels of all the groups. Just above 35 micrograms per cubic meter, whereas smokers, it's a lot less. So you can see that just the sheer volume of cooking smoke really contributes to air pollution at outdoor festivals.
So when it comes to our observations, we noticed that many of our smokers, well, people who were smoking, not our smokers, but many of the people who were smoking weren't actually in areas of high concentration. We had to look for them and hunt for them, and it was a finding that we were not expecting. We wanted to get a lot of smokers, you know, so we can really say we want to do this because we've got a policy where there's a lot of smokers. But they weren't there. We realized that many of the smokers were actually at the periphery of the festivals, which points towards a certain culture or cultural shift in the way we handle smoking within our society. So many of the smokers decided to smoke behind the tents in Horlock Park. Many of them decided to sit next to the washrooms near the Epcot fountain at Churchill Square. And so we call these considerate smokers because they consider that, you know what, smoking is harmful to everyone else, we'll move on. Whether they actually do that by themselves or it's become a cultural thing, that's a different question altogether. The only problem is that at Horlock Park, many parents would also go behind the tents with their little kids so that they could relax after a long day of work, of walking around. So that was something to do with our observations. So what can we conclude? Air quality at Edmonton's festivals, generally acceptable. However, there were pockets of high concentrations of PM2.5 at these festivals, especially from the cooking areas. We also realized there was some evidence of considerate smokers. Not everyone smoked outside at the periphery of the festivals, but there was evidence that there was a cultural shift. There's a cultural shift that's beginning to take place with regards to smoking.
All right, so all research sort of has an aim, something you'd like to set out to prove or to do. What we wanted to do was to inform policy on smoking bans and also on regulations concerning cooking outdoors. So right here we have some of our recommendations. One of our recommendations is a smoking ban set out by City Council during festivals on city-owned land, such as Churchill Square or parks such as Horlock Park. We believe that this would be able to really enforce this kind of considerate smoking culture and sort of just really solidify it as a cultural shift. Another thing that we'd like to propose is ventilation standards for temporary food establishments, and also to shift from propane to more electric kind of methods of cooking, because these propane uses really contribute a lot to PM2.5 levels in and around festivals. Also, a third thing that we'd like to propose is to limit the hours that people would work inside these temporary cooking establishments. I remember there was one tent at Horlock Park that consistently had very high ratings of PM2.5 levels, and if you were to work there, say, for 8 hours, you really would have gone over your daily kind of quota of PM2.5. After about 2 hours, you would have gone over your daily limit, something like that. So it's really not super safe for people to work in these for long periods of time. All right, so we have, I guess, a few people to acknowledge. First off, we'd like to acknowledge Dr. Damien Collins. He's our supervisor. He's super great, and he really helped us and kind of guided us through this research, and it was really good of him. I'd also like to acknowledge the Faculty of Science for funding our research, also the International Student Work Program and the Canada Summer Jobs Program. They also funded us, and that was great of them. Thank you. Also, we'd like to thank the Students' Union and the Undergraduate Research Initiative for putting on this wonderful dinner. I really like the food, so I'm really happy right now. Great. Thank you guys very much.
Those are our contact details. Feel free to email us or talk to us after the presentation. Thank you once again.